Hey everybody, I'm back in Hong Kong and this is a hands-on of the Honor 8X. So I actually have had this phone on me for close to 2 weeks, but I just didn't have time to make a video on this because went to Korea for LG and all that. But I've been using this phone on and off, usually as my second phone for over the past 2 weeks, so I have a pretty good impressions of this. So you guys remember I complained about Chinese brands pumping out too many phones and Honor was one of the culprits and same thing. So this phone, the 8X, looks and feels very similar to the Honor Play and the Honor Note 10 that I just recently got my hands on. I mean, there's differences like screen size and a little bit of specs difference, but otherwise the software, camera performance, just everything, it's very similar. Like, so it kind of makes me wonder, why is there a need to be like three Honor phones coming out in like a 5 week stretch that are all very similar? Well, the answer is Honor is trying to focus on different markets. So some phones are released in China only, some phones are like Southeast Asia. The 8X, it's actually going to be released in the US. That's impressive considering the US government is so anti-Huawei. So I'm not sure how they managed to pull it off, but this phone is going to be sold in Europe and the US. The price, I believe it starts at $250 and it goes up to close to 280 or 290. So the processor inside, it's a Kirin 710, so it's weaker than the Kirin 980 that's found in the Honor 10, the Honor Note 10, and the Honor Play. So day-to-day performance is absolutely fine when you go on social media, all that. There's absolutely no lag whatsoever. Sending emails, sending WhatsApp is fine. Where this Kirin 710 falls short, it's in two things. In photography, you cannot shoot 4K videos with the camera because the processor just cannot handle it. And also when you play games, the graphics just isn't that good because this chipset runs on a Mali G51 MP4 GPU, and that's a kind of mediocre dated graphic processor unit by late 2018. The one on the Kirin 980 is a lot better. So when you play games, graphic intensive game like Hero Hunters, you can see that usual Ultra HD resolution. It's just not even available for you to use. In fact, the game defaults run on medium. If you go on high, the graphics stutters a lot and frame rate definitely drops. So playing games on this phone, it's fine when you're still playing lighter games, but when you're playing Hero Hunters, you really see a difference between this and the Honor Play or the Honor Note 10, phones of a Kirin 980. So the RAM, you get either 4 or 6 gigs of RAM. This unit has 4 gigs. It's enough for day-to-day use again. This is a very, nice looking feeling phone. It has a 6.5 inch display at a resolution of 2540 by 1080, so that's pretty crisp, and the whole phone feels very similar to the iPhone XS Max in terms of size. They both have a 6.5 inch display, except the Honor phone has a little bit of a chin compared to the iPhone XS Max, which there's still a little bezel, but it's slightly slimmer. But the two phones feel very similar screen, similar thickness. You put them side by side, it's actually very familiar. That's good news for Honor considering this phone is $1,000. This phone, it's $280 and you get a very nice feel. Like, this is a glass back, aluminum sides, so very premium. I like the back. I usually don't like red phones, but I think this red is pretty nice. I think the back plate design is nice, everything on one side and kind of symmetrical. The phone glimmers a little bit when you shine light on it. So overall, for $280, zero complaints about how the phone looks and feels. So now about the camera. The camera software, it's very typical of Huawei and Honor phones, meaning it's very bloated. You're just filled with options and a lot of gimmicky stuff like AR lens, which can be kind of fun depending on who you are. General photo quality is really damn good. I'm gonna put up some side-by-side samples with the Honor 8X with the iPhone XS, and just when you're looking at it on a phone screen or even when you're looking at it shrunken down, they look almost exactly the same. That's pretty impressive considering the iPhone XS is $1,000 and the Honor 8X is $250. But when you zoom in on the photos on a computer, then you start seeing subtle quality differences between the two phones. The iPhone XS is definitely still a better camera, but the fact that they're close, kind of really says a lot. If you're just posting photos on Instagram and you're shooting pictures in a day, they're very similar. Now one area the Honor 8X's budget roots really show itself is when you shoot photos in challenging conditions. So that's either low lights or when you're shooting against a backlight. So now look at these two images side by side of the iPhone XS and the Honor 8X. Look at the dynamic range on the Honor 8X is pretty poor. The bottom part of the picture is completely drenched in shadows, whereas on iPhone XS is a very clear, balanced shot. So I already know some people are gonna comment like, why are you comparing a $250 Honor phone with an iPhone XS? That's not fair. Well, I know it's not fair, and I'm not trying to say, ooh, the Honor sucks because the iPhone has better photos. I'm trying to show you what the best possible camera looks like compared to a budget phone. And then, to be honest, factoring the price difference, it's not worth it paying $1,000 for an iPhone when a $250 phone can give you something that's like 75% as good. So these comparisons actually make Honor look good in my opinion. Okay, so we'll do a speaker test. So this is an LCD panel, not OLED, so the blacks are not that deep. So single fine speaker, you see completely, you can muffle it. But we'll go up to 100%. So it's hard for me to show you, but the phone actually vibrates when you're playing music. That's just part of Honor's like, they call it something loudspeaker. So the phone shakes, which I'm not sure what it does, but you see the speakers you can muffle very easily. But it does get pretty loud, and the sound is not distorted, so you can watch this at 100%. It's fine. So again, 280. I think this is a really good phone for media consumption. You have a huge screen, pretty loud speaker, and there's a headphone jack, so you can always plug in headphones or earphones if you want just better sound. Alright, one thing I almost forgot to mention, this phone still uses a micro USB port to charge, so not USB-C. That's very disappointing to me because micro USB should be a dying port. So anyway, that's about it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this phone because it's very similar to all the Honor phones before. So $280. It's actually marked up in Europe and the US, because in China, I believe you can get it for 1,400 RMB, which is just about $200. But this phone, it's like you have to pay $50 more, $260, $270 in Europe or US. I think it's good for the money, but at the same time, there's something like a Poco phone. That's $300 and it gives you a Snapdragon 845. And the Snapdragon 845 is just a lot more powerful than the Kirin 710 right now. But I guess if you don't game or if you don't take a lot of photos at night, this phone absolutely performs fine when you're running social media. The software is clean, the screen looks good, and the design looks better than the Poco phone because the Poco phone is pretty ugly, to be honest. Like the chin is smaller than the Poco phone, the back looks good, and Huawei software, it's okay. So this is the EMUI. I do like this little page here with all the news. That's kind of useful. The app icons look a little bit better than before. Still not like as great as like a OnePlus software. And you have to swipe up. You have to swipe all the way from the top to get notification shade. You do get a button here to bring it down, so that's good. And you have your choice to use either navigation buttons, presses, or like Huawei's own swiping gestures, which just doesn't work that well. Actually, let me show you really quick. So if you go into system navigation, you see you have single key gestures right here. So how it works is basically you long press. You tap once to go back, you long press on it to go home, and then when you swipe up, it brings up Google Assistant, and swiping left and right brings up the app overview. So I see a couple of problems with this. One, every phone has already established that when you swipe up, it should be to go home. That's how it is on the iPhone 10, on Vivo phones, on Oppo phones, on the OnePlus 6. I'm pretty sure when other phones like Samsung introduce swiping, it'll be the same thing. You swipe up to go home. So the fact that Huawei requires you to long press to go home, it's a little bit weird. Like when you're long pressing, you have to wait a full second to go home, where swiping is just faster. And when you swipe, you bring up Google Assistant. That kind of throws me off. And while when you swipe left to right, you can bring up all the apps. Wouldn't it be better if swiping left to right lets you jump between the apps? Like, you know, if I swipe left, it goes to the next app. If I swipe right, it goes to the app to my right. But it doesn't. You can only bring up app overview like this. So I usually love swiping navigations, but I don't like Huawei's implementation. So that's it for the Honor 8X. Almost dropped the phone. So that's it for the Honor 8X. I will not have more on this phone because I'm going to move on to focus on other phones coming up because I'm getting my hands on the Huawei Mate 20 Pro pretty soon. And then I have the Razer Phone 2, and I have just confirmed that I'm gonna get my hands on the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3 very soon too. So if you're interested in following those phones, please consider subscribing to my channel, as I have a lot of upcoming content. This is a crazy month for phones. And the OnePlus 6T too, but that's probably in November. Thanks for watching.